Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. I don't know about these guys, but I'm actually getting bigger in office. Problem is, I'm not getting taller, I'm getting wider. I eat when I get anxious. President Smith, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for the hospitality and the courtesy. It's a pleasure to be back at Manhattanville. This is a truly outstanding organization with a great history, social justice, as you mentioned. And I've spent quite a bit of time here, and I'm looking forward to spending even more. It was very nice of the President to say that any student who attends today is going to get 5 points extra credit. Wasn't that very nice? Let's give her a round of applause, President Smith. Okay, maybe she didn't say that. County Executive Rob Astorino, let's give him a round of applause. He's doing a great job. County Executive and I are working on something called mandate relief. It's important to local governments, important to schools. Mandates are initiatives that the state imposes on localities without funding them. So requirements that the state mandates without funding them, and it puts a tremendous burden. If we're looking to reduce the cost of government, schools, et cetera, we're going to have to reduce the mandates that the state is actually imposing on local government. So it's a pleasure to be with him once again. Assemblyman Costelli, my assemblyman, because I'm right up the road. It was a relatively short ride for me today, Susie. But it's a pleasure to be with the assemblyman. He is from the other political party than I am. That's what he was referring to in slightly cryptic in his comments. But you know, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, what are you, Bob? You're a public servant. One of the issues we've had in Albany for too long is we've gotten too hung up on the parties. And we've gotten too hung up on you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican. I always got a kick out of the fact that when you would look at how a legislative body would vote, or how Albany would vote, all the Democrats would vote one way, all the Republicans would vote another way. Whatever the issue was, could be anything. What color should we paint the door, blue or red? All the Democrats vote one color, all the Republicans vote the other color. It can't be that they all agree with each other on every issue. It can't be. What it really is they're saying, I'm voting my political party and my political allegiance rather than voting the merits of the issue. And when people do that, you lose. You lose. This is not about loyalty to a political party. This is about representing the people who you represent, the people of this state at a very difficult time in this state's history, and doing what's right for the people before your political party. We're Democrats, we're Republicans, we're independents, we're liberals, we're conservatives, we're New Yorkers first. And let's remember that, and let's act that way. And that's the spirit of Assemblyman Costelli. Senator Susie Oppenheimer, I don't want to say how many years Susie and I go back, but she's a great friend to all the Cuomos. It's a pleasure to be with her. You heard from the Budget Director, Robert Megna. He heard I was leaving Albany. He rejoiced. He thought he was going to get some time. And then I said, oh, no, Bob, you're coming with me. I have more questions. I have more questions. He's done a fantastic job. Let's give him a round of applause, Robert Megna. A personal friend, a great public servant. She's doing a really good job, and you want to stay on her good side. Take it from me as former Attorney General, District Attorney Janet DiFiore. To all the elected officials who are here today, colleagues in the Assembly, colleagues in the Senate, colleagues in local government, Ken Jenkins is here, Andrea Stewart-Cousins is here. They are doing great work. It is a very tough time to be in government because these are tough issues. Let's give them all a round of applause. The governor of the state, one of the first obligations you have, you get sworn in, you do a state of the state, which is sort of an overall vision for the state. But then in the beginning of February, you deliver your budget. And the budget really lays out where you're going with the state. It's a snapshot of the situation of the state plus a plan going forward with specifics. And this is what I prepared for the state legislature and presented February 1st. I've been in office for about 1 month, but it has been a very long month, I want you to know. I started with 3 goals. Number 1, clean up Albany, make it work for the people, give you a government that you're proud of, a government that you can respect, a government of integrity, a government that the young people in this room will look at and say, I aspire to that, I want to be part of that. Number 2, balance the budget, show fiscal discipline, do not raise taxes. I've been all over this state for many, many years, and the people of this state can just not afford any more new taxes. And 3rd, focus on getting the economy running again, because that's what it's all about, creating jobs. This state is at a crossroads. Everything that's going on, the trajectory of this state, we're at a crossroads. And I guarantee whatever decisions we make now will shape the future of this state for years to come. I think now is the time for us to embark on a road to recovery. And at this point is when we're laying out the state budget, which is going to put a plan forth going forward. Bob said it's a different type of budget plan, because a budget plan is normally about the numbers. I said I don't want to do a budget plan that's about the numbers. It's really about the values, it's about choices, it's about the management direction that this state is going to take. Here's the profound economic truth. We spend too much money. That is my sophisticated economic analysis. When you look at how much we spend by any indicator, it is clear that we spend too much money. And, you know, there's one simple adage. You can't spend more money than you make, period. I don't care what business you're in, even if the business is the business of government. When you look at the state spending over the past 10 years, we average a 5.7% increase per year. We were only making 3.8% tax receipts. That's the revenues that were coming in. We were spending more than we were collecting. We were spending more than the families in this state were making. Income, family income, individual income was going up 3.7% per year. All of this, more than the rate of inflation, more than double the rate of inflation, and the rate of inflation is normally the predictor of increase. We've spent too much, and we've spent too much for too long. Because we spend too much, we tax too much. We're one of the highest tax states in the nation, as you know, $4,845 per capita state and local tax burden, 66% above the U.S. average. When you look at the property taxes on top of that, particular importance here in Westchester, we're 96% higher than the U.S. average. In this global world, in this marketplace where businesses can close up their laptop and move, when you have this kind of tax burden, businesses will leave, and they are leaving. Businesses leave, people leave, you generate less revenue, the state raises more taxes to make up for the lost revenue, and more businesses leave. This is the cycle that we are in and we have been in, and this is the cycle that has to stop. The proof is in the pudding. 2 million people have left the state. Now, you could say, well, look, we spend a lot of money, but you know what? We get great results for what we spend. Yeah, you can say that. It wouldn't be true, but you can say that. Education. We spend more money than any state in the nation. We're number 34 in terms of results. It's not a comment on Manhattanville, Madam President. I want you to know this is generic government funding. When it comes to health care, Medicaid, we're number 1 in spending, number 21 in results. When it comes to economic development, we spend $1.6 billion annually, and we are number 50 in terms of results. Why? Well, when you pull back the curtain on Albany, you see the government is manipulated by the special interests. When you look at how the state does its budget, we call it Albany budgeting meeting Enron. Now, I just spent 4 years as Attorney General, And as Attorney General, I uncovered schemes in the healthcare industry where literally the insurance companies set their own rate on reimbursements. And we exposed this scam all across the country, and we changed the way insurance companies do business. We did investigations on Wall Street where they were exploiting the housing market by manipulating the values of homes. I did scams with banks, uncovering scams in terms of student loans, and we changed the way the student loan industry is done. Well, as governor, I'm telling you, there is a sham that is now operating, and it is the special interests in Albany controlling their own industry and their own budget process. Why has the spending been going up year after year after year? Because the budget is driven by rates and formulas that are in the law that dictate unsustainable annual increases, and these rates and these laws are influenced by the special interests who are benefiting from those rates and laws. That's what has to stop. Because until we stop that, you will never stop the numbers increasing. So how does this work on a practical basis? Well, every year the budget goes up and up and up because the laws, the way they're written, mandate increases. So the budget from last year to this year, with all that's been going on, the state just passed the budget last year, and you know what the economy was last year. What do you think the legislature, in its wisdom, passed in the budget as an increase for this year? Maybe the rate of inflation, right, which is a normal predictor, 2%, that would be reasonable. Maybe they weren't reasonable and they went to 4%, maybe 5%, maybe 6%, maybe 7%. No, 13% increase in Medicaid, 13% increase in education. How does anyone think in this economy you're going to be able to afford a 13% increase? That's what the legislature passed in the state budget. 13% increase. And it's not just this year. You look at the increases in Medicaid in the previous year, 16% the year before that, 14% the year before that. You look at what they're mandating going forward, 13% and 9%. Rate of increase in education, the same thing. Going forward, it's 13% and 11%. Nothing in life is increasing by these numbers. Raise your hands, whose income is going up 13%? Whose bank account is paying 13%? Whose home value is increasing 13%? Only government thinks that we're going to be able to afford a 13% increase. That's the lunacy in Albany that has to be stopped this year. The rates of growth are unsustainable, they're unnecessary, they're unjustifiable. And in my opinion, it's not partisan politics. That's what I was saying about the Assemblyman. This is not about Democrats, Republicans. This is not about an ideology. This is a concept called the permanent government. There was a great reporter turned author, a fellow named Jack Newfield, God rest his soul, who I used to read growing up. He wrote a book called The Permanent Government that made the point that politicians come and go, elected officials come and go, and there is an infrastructure, an industry of groups who manipulate the government year after year because it's a business for them. I went back to Albany this year as governor. I was there once before at an earlier time in my life. There was another Cuomo who went to Albany, and I went with that Cuomo. That was Matilda Cuomo, my mother. My mother went because my father went. His name was Mario Cuomo. He was a governor. Many of you don't remember him. But I went as his special assistant when he first was elected governor in 1982. The same people I met then are there now. Same lobbyists, same special interests, same hallway, same phone number. That's the permanent government. And that's what's been running Albany for all these years, and that's what's going to have to change. What's even worse, for those of us who are progressive, and we're there in government because we believe that government can make a difference, and these programs can make a difference. These program increases are not going up because people are doing a great job or because there are outcomes or performance measures. They're just getting more money to get more money. We're not even driving performance. So we're not even serving the people we're there to serve. Medicaid was about helping poor people. Now it's about fueling an entire infrastructure of groups and organizations and administrative overhead. And it's not about helping the poor person who needed health care. It's not about the patient. It's not about wellness. It's not about the success rate. In education, it's not about student achievement. It's not about graduation rates. It's about pension and wages and steps. It's more funding to the special interests. It's a crisis now. It needs to end now. We need to redesign our programs for performance, deliver for the people. That's what government is supposed to be about. We need to recalibrate our spending to a sustainable level because you can't afford 13% increases anymore. We have to focus on rebuilding the economy because it's all about creating jobs, because that's the engine that pulls the entire train. You look at the Medicaid program, we're going to appoint a redesign team, which is working now to redesign the whole program. Make it about the patient, make it about performance, and cut the fat in the program and cut the administrative overheads that are there year after year. For example, on the Medicaid program, one of the fastest growing programs within Medicaid is something called home health care. This is a nice idea. Rather than someone going to a nursing home, you send the health care to the person's apartment or the person's home. It is the fastest growing area. The way it works is the state contracts with something called the Certified Home Health Agency. That agency takes an administrative overhead of about 25%. That agency turns around and subcontracts with another agency called a licensed home care service agency. That agency takes another 25%. They then turn around and actually hire a person to go into the home to provide the care. That person gets 48 cents. 52 cents on the dollar has nothing to do with providing care to the person. It's all about the infrastructure and the business of the programs. The business of the programs. It's all about the permanent government and increases to the organizations and the bureaucracy and not the people. We are going to redesign, we are going to recalibrate Medicaid this year. Year to year is going to be reduced $982 million, which is a 2% cut. It's not easy for any organization to absorb a cut, but I think 2% in light of our current circumstances is reasonable, especially when you look at the growth in the program over the past few years. Medicaid has grown at 5.7% per year compared to inflation, which is 2.3%. Growth in Medicaid going forward, that 13% number I showed you, that has to be changed going forward. I say to my colleagues who are in the legislature, don't send me a budget that has Medicaid growing at 13% next year, because that will just continue the cycle. If that's the budget you're going to send me, don't bother sending me the budget, because I can tell you the answer now. I'm not going to go back to the people of this state and say that cycle, that negative cycle is continuing. We need a real index that's a fair index, that is a sustainable index for growth, like what's called the healthcare CPI, which works all across the country, which is at about 4%. In terms of education, I want to change the perspective and make it about performance more than just funding. I spent many years in the federal government under Clinton and Gore, and at that time, the state of the art was competitive grants, performance grants, as opposed to just formula grants or block grants, meaning change the orientation of government to actually pay for performance. In education, we send school districts money year after year, and the school district gets the money by what they call formula. So you're going to get $14,000. You're going to get $14,000 from the state if you do a great job. You're going to do $14,000 from the state if you do a lousy job. You're a school, you're going to get the same amount of money no matter what you do. If you want performance, and you want to see graduation rates go up, and you want to see student achievement go up, incentivize the progress. Reward the progress. I want to have a $250 million competitive grant for the schools that show the greatest improvement, and a $250 million grant program competition for schools that show the best performance in management and consolidation and finding ways to save money rather than just spend money. In terms of our total budget, total education funding for the state was $52.9 billion. There'll be a $1.5 billion reduction from the state, which is 7% of state aid. When it's added to the local financing, it'll be roughly a 2.9% net decline. Now, cutting aid to education is not popular. It's not what I'm here to do. It's not what I would like to do. However, I don't believe this cut will result in any layoffs, because when you look at the other areas we're spending money, there are plenty of ways to make up for this reduction. For example, schools have currently about $1.2 billion in reserves that have been funded by the state. There's $600 million additional federal money from last year that hasn't been spent. $1.2 billion in reserves. This cut is about $1.5 billion. So the reserves themselves, especially with the federal money, would cover the cut. We have to take a look at the high levels of compensation in school districts. There are 279 school superintendents. More than 40% receive salaries totaling $200,000 or higher. These are very, very good jobs. As a matter of fact, I applied for a school superintendent job, and I failed, and then I ran for governor. I understand that they have to manage large organizations. I understand they have to balance budgets. I don't understand why they have to get paid more money than I get paid. That's what I don't understand. If you did a wage freeze for management and teachers, it would save $1.1 billion. If teachers paid the same health care contributions that state workers pay, that's $600 million right there. We have 676 school districts. 200 have fewer than 1,000 principals. If we got pupils, if we got serious about consolidation, we could save money there. So it is going to be a time where we're going to have to look in the mirror and find efficiencies and find economies of scale and find ways to provide our services better. Going forward, we have to recalibrate the education funding to about a 4% increase because, again, 13% is not affordable. When it comes to the state agency operations, I'm going to do what people in Westchester are working on. You have to find a way to reorganize the government and make the agencies more efficient and more effective. And we're appointing a private sector commission to come in to do just that. We're going to need about $450 million in savings, and we're going to be working with the representatives of labor to find those savings. Again, in wages, compensation, in public pensions and health benefits. The absolute last resort would be to lay off state workers. Nobody wants that. This amount of savings would be about 9,800 layoffs. One of the things we're going to have to do in the state is consolidate our prisons. Why? The good news is fewer people are in state prisons. Demographically, the curve has changed. Crime fighting has gotten better, some would say, but there are fewer people in prisons. The 21% decline since '99, 14,000 fewer people in state prisons. Which means what? Which means you need fewer state prisons. We want to consolidate state prisons and save money that way. We want to reduce 3,500 beds in state prisons. We would then provide economic transformation grants to those communities who have a closed prison. We also want to consolidate in the juvenile justice system. This is a system that is in many ways outdated. We send juveniles who are troubled to basically prison facilities and incarceration facilities. They are very, very expensive. $250,000 per juvenile per year. $250,000. They're also not effective in care, a 90% recidivism rate for juveniles who are sent to a facility. It should have been stopped a long time ago. It's going to be stopped now. Again, we would consolidate and close some facilities and provide an economic transformation grant. Most importantly, we have to focus on rebuilding the economy. This is an expensive state. We're not going to be able to continue to cut our way out of this slump. We're going to have to grow our way out of this slump. We need to bring businesses. We need to bring jobs. We need to collect revenues. We're going to focus on economic development, regional strategies, because that's the way the economy works, and get those jobs coming. If we are at a crossroads, there are two paths we can take. One is the road to ruin. One is the road to recovery. I am trying to lay out a plan in this budget. I'm trying to say to you today, this choice is an important choice. And we can either change what we've been doing, or we can continue down the same road. Now, change is hard. I know that. Change is a fascinating phenomenon. When you say to people, do you want change? They all say yes. Oh, I want change. We need change. I believe in change. They say it in every context. They say it in the classroom. Husbands and wives say it to each other every day. We need change. We need change. What they really mean is you need to change. They don't want to say it that way, but that's what they really mean. You need to change. They're doing pretty well where they are. It's you need to change. For ourselves, we don't really like change. Why? Because we like control. We like the status quo. We really don't want change. This kind of change is hard. I'm changing the organization in the states. I'm changing the way we fund education. I'm pushing consolidations. I'm asking people to find management efficiencies. This is hard. I know it's hard. But I also know that life is options, and we don't have any. We don't. We keep doing what we're doing. We keep passing budgets with 13% increases, running these deficits, increasing taxes. The businesses are going to leave. The people leave. We're going to wind up being here alone. We don't really have an option. And it is going to be hard, but change is hard, and change is also how you grow. And change is how you improve. And change is how you meet the future. And that's what this is going to be all about going forward. This is the time to do it. This is the moment to do it. If we are successful, we will have changed this state. We will have stopped the unsustainable spending. We will have closed the deficit with no new taxes, which would be incredible. We'll begin government redesign. We'll start performance funding, so we start to actually focus on helping the people we were supposed to help, rather than funding infrastructures and bureaucracies. Develop a real economic development program in this state, a real jobs program, and we'll reposition New York nationally. So businesses all across the state know this is a different New York. We're not the high-tax, high-regulation, anti-business New York. We're the business-friendly New York. We want you here. We want jobs. New York is open for business. That, my friends, is the road to recovery, and that, my friends, takes you. Democracy works when you make it work. And that's why I wanted to be here to talk to you. That's why I wanted to talk to the students. When does change come to government? When you make it happen. This kind of change not only is hard structurally, this is hard politically. Why? Because all those lobbyists who are in the hallways are going to do everything they can to stop this. All those businesses that have been living off this state budget, $130 billion is the state budget. This is big business. And they all have their piece. They're not just going to give up and go away. They've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years. They got it written into the law. They got it through the legislature. They're ingrained. They're there. Here comes a new governor who says, we're going to change. They say, no, 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 we're not going to change. We're going to change governors. That's what we're going to do. Because we're not going to change. And they go to the legislature and they pressure the legislature. And they are a strong force to resist. Well, why don't you stand up and just tell them? It's hard. It's hard. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of power. It changes when the people demand change. It is that simple, but it's also that powerful. It changes. It changes. It changes when people demand change. Democracy does work. Hydrofracking is a different issue that we didn't get to today. We will get to hydrofracking. It's not a budget issue, but it is a very important issue. And democracy does work. But I need you to be part of this debate. I need you to weigh in. I need you to make your voice heard. That's when we're going to change Albany. When the people of this state demand that the politicians change Albany. I'm going to make this presentation all across the state. All I can do is bring the information to you. All I can do is lay it out to you. You have to decide to act. You have your assemblyman, you have your senator, you have your officials. Make your voice heard. Vote for New New York. Vote for change. Vote to correct these problems. Seize the moment. Carpe diem. Seize the day. And let's make this state the Empire State once again. Thank you and God bless you.